The college basketball experience summer coaches tour for the Purdue Fort Wayne Mastodons edition, featuring Coach Jon Coffman edition of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Sign up today using that promo code TCESGPN to claim your first time deposit offer up to $250 bonus in cash. Underdog Fantasy promo code TCESGPN. And we're also brought to you by Rhythm. Rhythm's college football and NFL projections are now live. Claim your 7-day free trial today by going over to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That is the sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM today. And welcome everybody into the college basketball experience summer coaches tour. And we head to the Midwest, Fort Wayne, Indiana. We're going to sit down with Coach Jon Coffman, talk a little Horizon, talk about the last decade, what he's been able to build there. One of the more underrated coaching jobs in America, kind of the feature and theme of this podcast and the summer coaches tour. We feature these stories that don't get covered enough in this great game of college basketball. Coach Coffman in Fort Wayne got a lot coming back. He's excited. You'll see that interview here shortly. But first, I am Moneyline Mac, a.k.a. the former video coordinator for Bob Huggins and Frank Martin. Also known as Mac Tonight over here at the College Basketball Experience. The tour goes on. We head into the Horizon. Like I said, man, I really enjoyed this sit down with Coach Coffman. Feel the energy, some of the changes they've made with the NIL and transfer portal, and how their staff adjusts to it. They've been able to recruit a certain guy there, been very, very successful, and he gave us a little more than most guys. I'm not going to lie, in our interviews. So I think you guys are really going to enjoy it. Before we play Coach Coffman's interview, let's pay the bills, because at the College Experience, we're brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Sign up today using that promo code right above my head, TCESGPN, so that you can claim your special pick and first time deposit offer up to $250 bonus in cash. College football is here, so you're going to want to get your account downloaded and loaded up. Underdog Fantasy promo code TCESGPN. Back over here at the College Basketball Experience Summer Coaches Tour. Let's get right into it. The head coach of the Mastodons of Purdue Fort Wayne, and by the way, they are Purdue Fort Wayne, not IPFW, not Fort Wayne. He jokes in this interview that he's had 3 different titles during his tenure at Purdue Fort Wayne. Jon Coffman, the head coach of the Mastodons. And we continue our summer coaches tour on the College Basketball Experience with the head coach of the Purdue Fort Wayne Mastodons, Coach Jon Coffman. Coach, how are you doing?
Ryan, doing really well. I appreciate you having me on today.
I appreciate you taking the time. I know it's been a busy summer. We tip off the ball less than 3 months. I know it's hard to believe. Just fill everybody in what you guys have been up to as a program over the last couple months.
Well, like everybody in the country, you're getting your 8 weeks in the summer. It's been really impactful during my 10 years, starting my 11th year as head coach. Being able to, work on us without worried about an opponent. It's everybody talks about, you want to be process driven. I was talking with our volleyball coach this morning, and they had 2 weeks before their first match, and it's almost impossible. And you have that entire summer off. I love how our summers have evolved, and it goes from basketball. Obviously, we're cranking out hours in the gym. Our guys have 24-hour access. They're living in the gym with our GAs, beyond what we're doing on the floor with our coaching staff. And then we've really grown with our life skills program, which goes from ballroom dancing and dining etiquette to golf lessons to personal finance. I mean, it's been really cool there. We do a lot with our leadership training in the summer, and that's where we break up into 5 teams of 3 and disseminate information through their pod leaders, and then do different challenges, some athletic, some social, some fun, we have some good times with that. And then our mental performance coach, he's been with us 8 years. We brought him in when Jon Coffman was testing the waters in the NBA, and they asked us to, bring somebody in to help him raise his usage rate, and need to get a sports psych in our organization. And Donovan Martin's been with us now 8 years, and now we do a training camp. It's a mental skill on Mondays. We go through some video and podcasts, kind of training that skill on Wednesdays. And then we do a physical challenge coupled with a mental challenge at sunrise on Fridays. And that's really, really been impactful in our organization with shared experiences the last couple of years. So it's been a busy summer. I could talk for hours. I know you don't have that. So you got to keep me on track today.
All good. Wait, the best interviews are the ones I do the less talking. So, Coach, let me ask you this. Yes, the summers have really evolved compared to like back in the day when you were playing. You played at Washington and Lee. Just talk about your playing experiences and when you knew you wanted to get into this coaching industry.
Well, I was blessed to go into one of the premier athletic high schools in the country at Marist School in Atlanta, where I played with Matt Harper, who played, I guess, like 12 to 16 years, something like that, 15 years in the NBA. Had 2 guys from the NFL on my high school basketball team. Had 9 of us that went on to play college basketball. My high school coach was, arguably the best coach to coach in the state during that time, and was national coach of the year, I think in '93, the year after I graduated. And so just really that situation, I thought I'd be a high school coach. And then I went to Washington Lee, and at the high academic situation there, just got sort of, pushed into my economics degree and followed that in finance out in San Francisco immediately after graduation. I failed at that. I chuckle at because our company got bought out, and I recognized really early, 2 years in, that was not my passion. Lived my weekends, had a great time living out in San Francisco on the West Coast, and loved the outdoors and got to explore that, got to live in a cool city, but took off to Alaska actually for 2 months trying to spend all of that severance package. But my buddy and I, we kind of figured, hey, what are we going to do with our lives after that? I chose to make a career change and got a Division III assistant's job in Southwest Virginia working for Bob Johnson. Coach Johnson has been so impactful. Other than Ron Bell, my high school coach, probably the most impactful person in my life, other than my parents and my high school coach. And his dad was chief of staff for the Army during Vietnam. Had a picture of his dad on the cover of Time magazine. And through those 2 years, I was his only assistant as a Division III coach, and he was really big on life skills and impacting these young people in Southwest Virginia to figure out what they're going to do after basketball. Some of my craziness, our Camp Coffman in the summers, our dining etiquette, our personal finance, that was all sort of inspired with Bob Johnson 26 years ago. It was an amazing experience. I mean, some days I'd walk into the office and be like, John, we're not talking basketball. Here's a book, sometimes 250, 300 pages. It might be on politics, might be on leadership, might be on basketball. And he'd be like, hey, I'm going to meet you up on my deck. It was rural Southwest Virginia. He had this cool house on top in the Virginia mountains overlooking campus. And we'd go up there and smoke a cigar and drink a Foster's can of beer and talk about it. The book I just read that day. And so he impacted my life in so many different ways. And I've been paying that forward for sure. The 24 years I've been assistant since I left Emory and Henry College, but really the last 11 years as a head coach, I've really embraced some of the things I learned. And then went on to college at Charleston, went on to Stetson, to Colgate before I got here to Fort Wayne. And I married a coach. She's been so impactful in my career. She's a higher level coach than me, was a head coach before I was. I stole my core values from her, tried to make changes, but wasn't able to outthink her on those. And so I've been a great stealer of other great coaches, including my wife, Tracy Coffman, who's a college softball coach.
Well, that's good. That's great to hear. It's always interesting hearing when couples meet that are in the coaching industry. You guys understand what goes in, the sacrifices you guys got to make. You mentioned the different stops along the way. What are some of the things you took from your mentors at Stetson, Colgate, Fort Wayne, College of Charleston that helped you prepare for your gig now, head coach at Fort Wayne?
Well, from my first stop with Bob Johnson at Emory and Henry College, honestly, the thing I took most there is that sort of life skills and getting comfortable being uncomfortable, which is a big inspiration to what we do in our summer development programs. Also, ironically, 26 years ago, his style of play is probably the closest to how our program plays offense here, in terms of read and react and motion and a ton of freedom, but you have to have discipline with the small details to get to that. We're really, really simple, but at the same time, when you have 5 guys moving in unison and you have that freedom, it's a bunch of small details as we teach the motion and play with speed and try and score at a high level. I mean, we're number 16 in the country in scoring over the last decade here in Fort Wayne. And, a big part of that comes from being able to shoot the three, things that I took from my experience with Bob Johnson. Then at College of Charleston, I worked for a Hall of Fame coach, John Kress. The court's named after him. Actually, my first 2 stops, court's named after him. Bob Johnson had the court named after him as well. And, for John Kress, I mean, he won a league title every year they transitioned from NAIA to Division I. Unbelievably successful. And the thing I took from him is organization. And I was laughing with you about my receipts that have piled up that I'm trying to turn. So I'm not perfect at that, but in terms of organization of my staff, in terms of organization of our, being intentional with what we're doing in practice. I mean, if you look at one of my practice plans, it takes me an hour and a half to put together. It's detailed to a T every minute what we're going to do. Now, obviously I can flex if I don't like the direction we're going, but I really take pride in coaching up my staff and coaching them in what I want from them to do it in terms of our vision. And then we'll debate things. I mean, they're open to, growing, and I got a very experienced staff right now who've been with me for a while. And so we may debate in our practice meeting, but then once we go out, they're doing a ton of the teaching, and I'm back. I'm watching. I'm doing quality control. I'm stepping in when need be. I'm writing notes so that, when we get into team segments, I can address those and then improve our practice plan going into the next day. But that organization comes from my experience with John Kress. And then I work for a young, passionate, energetic head coach, Derek Wall. He's 28. He and I played high school basketball at Marist School together. He was a failed lawyer, just like I was failed in finance. And then he went into coaching after a professional career that just chose to follow his passion different. So it was cool. 2 friends kind of, attacking 8 years in Florida together, going through it. And so learned from his passion, his success. He was unbelievable, commanding a crowd, working with the community, built, a community-based program that was, sort of under, everybody talks about, maybe underfunded, but I mean, we were really underfunded to where we played a ton of guarantee games. We were fundraising just to manage our program. And sometimes even, we were fundraising for one of our assistance program. And that's really impacted from NIL here at Fort Wayne to, how we got our program, to be towards the top of the league in the Summit League when I first took over, that fundraising and engaging in our community. And then my next stop at Colgate University with Emmett Davis. Again, Emmett was phenomenal with his organization. particularly on the recruiting front. And that's where I think I've really taken our recruiting organization, our recruiting model. When you're recruiting at Colgate and you're really 3-4 hours from the nearest player, and you're recruiting nationally because of that Colgate brand, you're in the Patriot League, recruiting high academics. It really grew my recruiting base. It also, made me think really intentionally about how we could be organized and how we could do more with less, and kind of have that recruiting model that my assistants knew what I thought and how we create our own recruiting language. And I think that's where we've been really good. I mean, finding players that were under recruited. Jon Coffman was playing for the Memphis Grizzlies, played for us here in Fort Wayne, and we were his only Division I offer. He also played with Kaysen Harrell, who came in here. We were his only Division I offer. He became our ninth all-time leading scorer here. We've had 24 pros in Fort Wayne during the 14 years I've been here, 3 as an assistant, 10 as a head coach. And, a lot of those guys got overlooked. And so, what we were looking for, being intentional for, that style of play and a fit from the skill set, but then also how we're going to go about doing our business. And that's, what we do and how we evaluate and how we manage that. And then, what's really helped at our place is, the COVID recruiting and how we've added in our Zooms, our online, our presentations. We've been really evolving the last, 11 years as a head coach here in Fort Wayne as well.
And I'll ask you a follow-up question, Coach. I don't think people realize you guys have won 180 games in 10 years. So you do the math, that's 18 games a year. That's including playing bye games. Let me ask you, you started in the Summit League, then you transitioned into Horizon League around that COVID time period. What have you guys done as a staff at just evolving with the times, the NIL, the portal, et cetera, with the ever changing landscape of college basketball?
Well, the first piece, and this happening, during COVID, is how you're going to communicate in a situation where you couldn't go out. I thought we really won the COVID recruiting to where we had a huge transition in our roster that year, and we're able to do it when you couldn't go out, you couldn't have players on campus, and I had a young, energetic, passionate staff who really embraced technology. And, we had stories, in our program. We had success here in Fort Wayne. And so we were able to put that onto videos and be able to catalog that with stats and talk about some of those past pros that we've had, how we got them there, our player development programming, all the resources we have here in Fort Wayne, due to our city and the commitment of our city. And, we've presented really, really well. And we've maintained that, like in our dead period. I mean, I have a Zoom tonight with a recruit. We had last Thursday, I had 6 Zooms in a row, 2-hour sessions with family where we're presenting about the city, about our housing, about, our facilities, but even more so about our player development. Not only are we showing the stats, the tenure stats, of number 16 in the country in scoring over the last decade, number 4 in 3-point field goals made, number 13 in 3-point field goal percentage, top 10 in effective field goal percentage, all these tenure stats. I mean, those are great. And, we haven't done it just while we had Jon, who's playing in the NBA. We've had 24 pros. We've done it generation after generation after generation. And a lot of programs, they're sharing stories of what they did when they were an assistant at a Power 5 school or at the last school they were at. I mean, I'm sharing stories. Our staff is sharing stories about what we've done, here in Fort Wayne, with multiple generations. And so we're giving comps of players, transfers to freshmen. I mean, Jon Coffman is the only player in the history of college basketball to score 2,000 points, 1,000 rebounds, 500 assists, 250 steals. And if you go to 400 assists and you take the steals portion out, I mean, you got guys like Stacey Augmon, Larry Bird, Oscar Robertson. All of a sudden, you move those stats up another notch, and then all you got is Jon Coffman. Then you go to Jared Godfrey, another 5-year guy who's our all-time leading scorer, pass up Jon, and he's got freakish stats. I mean, over like 2,200 points, 600 assists. You go into these 3-pointers made. I think it's like 400 3-pointers made while he's here. And then just these stats, all of a sudden, now you're like, how did these guys do that here? Well, our style of play. I'm not a sexy guy, and I realized that I got to come up with a sexy style to recruit players to IPFW at the time. And then we transitioned to Fort Wayne. Then we get to Purdue Fort Wayne. Funny story is a couple years ago, we had a really good year. I think it was 22. We won the league in the Horizon League, second-year league. And there was this tweet that goes out and said, hey, Coach Coffman, might be a good guy to look at out there in the coaching carousel. Although if you look at his Wikipedia, it looks like he's been dancing around from school to school to school. I've had the same office now for 14 years. But if you look at Wikipedia, I've had 3 different name changes of our university. And so, we're able to sell generations what they've done here in our program. And that's been really, really cool what we've done that. Now as we get into the transformation of the transformation of college basketball. So, not just the technology piece and not just the summer access piece, but now NIL. I think we've really, really dominated that space. And really excited about that. So last year, well, let's go back 3 years ago. This is what's crazy. And you may not even know sort of the transition going back through college coaching and what we were allowed with the rules. But 3 years ago, one of my players here, and I got a lot of relationships in Fort Wayne. I've been here for a long time. And we've done it through fundraising and raising up our budgets through our community. Well, 3 years ago, our players could not go to a breakfast, lunch, dinner. They couldn't even go to Starbucks and have one of our donors, our season ticket holders, buy a Starbucks, buy a breakfast for them, and talk about their career after basketball. Did you know that?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I got out of the coaching industry 2 years ago, so it's changed dramatically.
Crazy, Ryan, wasn't it? I mean,
yeah.
And so we now, people are scratching their heads like, what are we doing? Well, we kind of created this world. When I say we, I mean, we were all impactful. You, me, we've been in this, how we present to our ADs present to the presidents. The presidents are actually the NCAA. Everybody wants to bash the NCAA. All they are is representing our presidents. And, unfortunately in academics, we're not very fluid. It takes time. We always want to study things. So we don't move as quick as we'd like to. And so that's where we got ourselves into this awkward place of keep our donors here, keep our athletes here. And maybe it's because of, gambling. Maybe it was because of, the brown bag that we were always worried was going between, the donors and the athletes. But whatever it was, like that part was not right. Like you want your guys to be able to network, leverage their position playing for their city, for their university, to help them skip the first job. And we talk about it in our program all the time. And we've been doing this for over a decade. How do you, utilize our city to skip the first job, to get that second job, to get the job where you're receiving the coffee in the meeting, not delivering the coffee in the meeting. And so we immediately, all right, before, I thought we could go out and get hundreds of thousands of dollars to, pay players, before I thought we could do it, I said, all right, community mentors, easy. All my friends in the community, businessmen, women, I connected our players. And so we each had a mentor that I challenged our community members who became mentors that once a month they would take our player out to breakfast, lunch, dinner, and they would be challenged to bring a new person from the community in to sit down and meet with them. Okay. And now I wanted to give our guys the skills. Okay. So I brought in a consultant in our community who, like, this is his passion. Anthony Giuliano came in, got our guys all set up on LinkedIn, talked about what LinkedIn is all about, talked about networking, the skills. We brought in our dining etiquette. Karen Hickman came in, taught our guys about, hey, here's etiquette when you go out and have a meal with a donor or, somebody you're interviewing. And then Anthony Giuliano, his seminars based on personal branding, how you would network and the questions to ask, the person you are meeting with in this networking situation. And so our guys started doing this fundraising for us. Like, I didn't even know what I was doing on that side. I just thought I was connecting good people, and helping them network so that when they got done playing professionally, which 2 out of our 3 guys were signing pro contracts at the time, they were then, building this network up to where, they would be able to get a job after basketball was done for them. So what that then evolved into is, a year ago, I realized, man, we got to start a collective like everybody else. How does this look? I got a handful of community members. They're like, all right, let's do it. Hey, it's going to be a crazy world. You're in Fort Wayne. We're a mid-major program. Can we do this? Nobody really knows, but like, you gotta try.
Yeah.
And, year one of that collective, we fell way under our initial goal. And thought it would be easier. Now, a lot of people are like, Coach, we're on, like we're in. And these are the same people that have been giving to our program for years, but it's just different. You're giving to, a collective that is outside of the university. It's not tax deductible, or at least unless you would do business going into the marketing edge of it. So it was different, and they couldn't quite digest it. And so we raised a lot of money. I mean, we raised 6 digits. We were prepared for this coming spring. But not compared to compete with the people that had won at the level we had won with. Mm-hmm. And so then, this spring, I did all these follow-ups, and I did 28 meetings from 1 donor to 20, to 8 donors. We tried smaller groups, follow-ups. I challenged our board of directors for our Dons for Fort Wayne, our collective. And this is all from April, like right after the season. All right, until June, before we started camps, like the start of June. So, like, not a lot of time. And I mean, I barnstormed. It was every day, sometimes 2-3 meetings. And we crushed it. And the way we crushed it, and this is what every mid-major program in the country should be targeting, I believe. We were intentional because I wanted to sustain what we were doing. I the last 2 contracts I've gotten here are 8-year contracts. All right. The last one I said, hey, just get my son through high school. They did that. Got through 28. Then all of a sudden, we had success again. And I asked, hey, can we get my daughter through high school? That was through 30, And so, like, I got this vision. I want to be part of Fort Wayne. I want to be Fort Wayne's team. Well, I need sustainable NIL that matches with the values of our city. So what we did, and I think this is phenomenal, we said everything we do, all right, we are going to connect with community engagement, community service. So I went into the community, and I'm just asking some of the people in our community, what do you think matches up with our players where they really have value, And yes, we have value, being community pride, so winning. I mean, so some people are giving for that. But the sustainable piece is like businesses are now giving, all right, so that we do community service on their behalf, all right, where our guys have value. Boys and Girls Club, Big Brothers, Big Sisters as mentors, the Renaissance YMCA in an area of our city that we're targeting that there's some underprivileged kids. And so we've dominated this space. This summer, our players, and this was by our like we sold this to our community, and businesses were giving to our collective for this, but we did more than they asked. We put in 300 hours this summer at the Renaissance YMCA and Boys and Girls Club. Every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 3 hours blocks, 3 players at each one of those. And our players loved it. And my vision is, yes, we want to be able to compete. We won 23 games last year, had a really young team. Well, 7 of our top 8 are returning. The only one not is he graduated. He's going to play professional next year. And we got these guys back because we care for them, because of some of our Camp Coffman, our crazy life skills in the summer stuff, but also because we shrunk that margin in our NIL. And their parents also see, hey, we're teaching them to be future philanthropists. We're not just giving them a stipend like some schools are. Like, they're having to earn and work and figure out, hey, this is how you build, in our city. So they've been part of the process of building. And what what they're doing is what my past generations did. I mean, those 24 pros, they built our brand. We've
Yep.
won 2 big championships. That's helping this next generation. Same thing with our development of our NIL fundraising program. Like, it's been awesome watching it happen. And it's been sink or swim. And I'm sure you're hearing this from other coaches come on your podcast. It's sink or swim. And so I like to win, and we've won here at a high level. And so I've always fundraised, but now it's more than ever. And what's been really cool is I've met so many people, in our city that are like, man, Coach, I've been watching you from afar. I'm so glad you're asking. Here's what we can do. And, it might be a car, it might be, we got a jeweler's doing like custom bling for these guys, like, which is cool. And but they see the value of what we're doing in our community. I got the 3 best restaurants in our city. They're like, hey, we'll give you $100 a month to the players to where, they get to eat at a high level as long as they keep doing the special stuff in the community. And then just give us a shout out, on Instagram. But really, we just want your guys in our restaurants because we love what they're doing. And, it just is stacked up with special experiences for our guys. And I love it. I mean, are we going to be able to buy players at our level? Maybe some people can. Like, I've stayed away from anything transactional. Like, if you are transactional recruiting, you're going to get transactional players. And that's just not what I'm about. So we're paying players, and I'm happy to do it, but it's relationship based, like we've always been about. And so I'm recruiting the same way we always have. But now, hey, our scholarship, like, cost of doing business just went up. But I think what we're doing is really cool and a great sell to a parent as we're teaching your son to be a future philanthropist, coupled with the things we've always sold: player development, become a pro, win games, but also process-driven winning, and then life skills. How do we help you skip the first job to get the second job when you're done playing basketball? So that's a lot. But man, it has all been coming together this summer. We got 2 weeks now here before school starts. Our players went home. Most of my staff, they're on vacation right now. I got papers everywhere. I'm trying to connect dots on crazy summer, but it's been absolutely awesome. And I'm fired up where college basketball is in Fort Wayne right now.
Yeah, you can hear it in your voice and just see that's what NIL is supposed to be, Coach. And let me ask you this: you've taken a bunch of your time. I want to leave you with one last question before we get out of here. You're heading into year number 11. You guys have won 61 games in the last 3 years. Sustained success, what you've been talking about. What's your message to continue that momentum in Fort Wayne and get over the hump and win the Horizon and get to the big dance?
Well, one, I mean, we talk all the time about, we're process driven. And if you are strictly looking at outcomes, you're not going to have sustained success. You may have short-term success, but what we're trying to do is build a program, not a team. And there's a lot of people in college athletics right now. They're building teams and they're talking about it and they're making all sorts of excuses. Can't build a program. It's got to be a team right now. And I don't believe in that. And that's not what I'm about. That's not why I got into the business. And that's not why I come to work every day. And so we're continuing to build a program that represents Purdue Fort Wayne and our city every single day. And so as we do that, we're talking about the little details that we were working on 13, 14 years ago when I was an assistant working for Tony Jasek. And we're working about, we're talking about how you're part of something bigger than yourself. We're still recruiting the same, people that we were 14 years ago when I got here. And with that, I'm trying to coach up this team the same way. And so that's where we are trying to work on the person, and the mindset with our guys as we go through. And now it's a little more challenging because the transfers used to get that year in residence where they'd sit out. And we used to kind of go through that process, and those guys would have the experience of having played, yet they hadn't played. Now you got all 13 guys, eligible to play. And it's funny. I used to of our 15 scholarships, we had 2 walk-ons, 13 scholarships, and I'd redshirt 3 every year. I'd only have 10 eligible to play. We typically would play 9, and that 10th guy would have no friends to complain to, because he's not complaining to the guys that we're talking about the pro year, not complaining to that 9th guy. And so we kept this great culture in our organization. Well, it's not like them. We got to figure out different ways. And are we still redshirting some? Absolutely. I mean, I want to claim my redshirt year right now. Go back to W&L for that extra year. I mean, college, getting a graduate degree, our guys, even Conchar has a master's degree because he went here for 5 years. Max Landis, got his 5th year. He's got his master's degree. He's player of the year, got his master's degree. It's awesome. So we're trying to be the same there. And as I look back, 3 years ago, we won the Horizon League, returned all these guys, and lost, Jalen Pippen, who's a really good player, one of those starters. So had 4 or 5 starters come back and had a really nice year, but not the year that I thought we might be able to have with that group. And I may have been, I don't know if it's necessarily soft, but if I look back, I was so worried about here and the physicality of these older bodies. We were going to Europe that summer too. Another carrot I had to try and get those guys back. And we worked really, really hard. We maxed out what we could do on the basketball court this summer, but I may not have gone as live as I wanted to. Well, the next year we got all new guys. Okay. We graduated all 5 starters that year, and our 6th, 7th, 8th man ended up stepping up and becoming really good players for us this last year. We brought in a handful of transfers, had a freshman who was 5-time freshman of the week, and all these guys come together. And I knew we had to go live because we had to teach them. We had to get shared experiences. Our training camp, our sunrise, mornings where our mental performance coach, there are things I'd be like, oh man, I don't know. That's a little aggressive, in the summer when you're 6 months away from, February and March, we got to be playing their best. And I threw it all out and said, hey, that's our only chance. And next thing you know, we won 23 games. And we got all these guys who had never played together in a great rhythm. And I repeated that this year. I did not have a hesitation. We were really aggressive with our live play this summer. We were extremely aggressive, even more aggressive than the year before in our mental performance training and those sunrise workouts. And we did some crazy on Friday mornings at 5:30 a.m. or whatever, the clock said when you Google what was sunrise today. I mean, awesome stuff. And so we've tried to do that again this year. So process driven. We've been really, really aggressive with this year's group. We do have some impact transfers and freshmen that we think are going to play a role in this year's group because we did lose Anthony Roberts, who's a really, really good player, but got all these other guys back. I mean, 2 of the 3 all-league guys in our league, they're coming back to the Horizon League. 2 of them are on our roster. So we've been really aggressive with that. And you know what? Guess what? We sent them home 2 weeks ago, and I told them, hey, try to avoid live play at home. You got to come back because as soon as September 25th comes back, we're going to go after it again. I want you in rhythm. I want you in shape, but we're attacking this year. And I think we have all the pieces to have a special year. Does that turn into our first Horizon League championship in the tournament? I don't know. I love our chances, but I've loved our chances a lot during my tenure here between Summit League and Horizon League. But I loved how these guys attacked our process this summer, and I have no doubt we're going to have fun with this group this year.
No doubt, and I can't wait. The Horizon got in the win column in the March Madness last year with Oakland getting it done. Maybe you guys are the next team to do so. Coach, I appreciate you stopping by the college basketball experience. Best of luck this season, and definitely look forward to having you on this year.
No doubt. Ryan, thanks for having me on. And if you want to see some of my summer crazy, go to @Coach Coffman on Twitter. You don't see a lot of basketball out there. Now, we crushed it basketball-wise, but I got the phone in my pocket or whatever on the side of the court. I got my whistle, and we're attacking basketball. But off the court with some of our crazy, I cataloged all that stuff. We had some fun off the court. And I tell you what, out there, anybody who watches this stuff, if you're a non-basketball guy and you want to hire a winner, somebody who dominates life, who's going to be really successful after basketball, give me a call. DM me, because I got some guys that when their pro basketball careers are over, they're going to be winners in life, and they're going to help your organization. Appreciate it, Ryan. Thanks for having me on.
I appreciate it, Coach. Good luck.
All right.
Head coach Jon Coffman of the Fort Wayne Mastodons. You can hear it in his voice. You can sense it. Really likes his team coming back, and he should. I mean, they won 23 games last year. He's won 180 games in 10 years. One of the more underrated coaching jobs in the horizon. We saw Oakland get over the hump, get to the dance, win a game. Why can't Fort Wayne be that team next year? So appreciate him taking the time. Can't wait to check out their team this year in the horizon. Real quick, let's pay the bills on the way out, because football season is here. Bigger, better than ever, baby. College football, NFL. Go check it out. College football week 0 and NFL week 1. I mean, there's 4 games next week, so you're going to want to check out the college football experience. Maybe we'll get a little island action late in the night, Hawaii minus a 38 or something. So stay tuned. We'll give it out there. But, hey, claim your 7-day free trial today by going over to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That is the sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM today. And we're also brought to you by Circa Survivor and Circa Millions. We're 1 week away from the contest. Don't have your travel already booked? Well, we're here to help you. August 22nd through 24th is the contest. So get on over there. Use the promo code SGP15 to save 15% off your hotel room for the sign-up weekend. Or if you can't make it in person, well, we also got something to help you out, the proxy. Go over to proxy.footballcontest.com to save you $50 off with the promo code SGP. Want to thank Coach Coffman once again for stopping by the college basketball experience. Tomorrow, Travis Steele of the Miami, Ohio Redhawks. Sunday will be Coach Monte Ross. And Monday will be Alan Huss of the High Point Panthers. They had an unbelievable year in the Big South. So I already got those 3 scheduled out. Make sure you got all the notifications turned on and subscribe. Like I said, we're doing these all fall and the rest of summer. So maybe we'll have your head coach on. In between now and the end of next year, we'll have my goal is to have every single coach on in the country on the college basketball experience. Can't do it without you guys liking and subscribing, sharing this content. It really helps with the future and the growth of the show. Go check out the college football experience. Football season's right around the corner. All 134 team previews. Big 12 experience with me, Rush, and Troy. Go check out the FCS experience as well with Colby. And we all come together on youtube.com/the college experience. Coach Coffman, thank you again. Look forward to watching your team in the horizon with all that experience coming back. This is another edition of... There we go. Back tonight, signing off over here at the college basketball experience. Season's getting closer. You better start thinking about yours. And we are out of here.